Hello, folks. This is your Peach Peach Boom Boom Drone 'em Good update for the 5th. Well, I can see that people still don't understand what I've said regarding foreign policy. Either that or maybe I pissed off all the chicken hawks the second time around with all those downvotes. So I'm going to piss off some more people. So the Iraqi parliament apparently has just voted to essentially expel the United States from their territory, which they have the right to do. Now, there's some conflict here. You got to be a little careful. I don't happen to speak their languages over there in the Middle East, so being able to actually understand a not translated version is something I can't do. And the people doing the translating could be lying. So let us think about that very carefully, because, yeah, right. We have, a couple $1 trillion that has been spent in the last few years on military equipment and, troops and such like this over the last, let's see, it's been about 3 years, maybe a little less. That would be during Trump's time in office. Could we back up a bit and say, gee, I hope you can wax a terrorist for $2 trillion. Don't you think? Okay. The Iraqis want us out. Fine. We'll leave. All of those heavy transports that the various flight tracking sites have shown taking off from Fort Bragg and elsewhere, which, by the way, don't get me wrong. I have no illusions that they're going empty to go pick up American troops and equipment. That's not what they're doing, and you and I both know damn well what they're doing. But what they should be doing is leaving empty. And then, after they leave empty, they should go over there, they should grab our shit, load it in the plane, and bye-bye. You want us out? Fine. We're out. Now, that comes with a price. Without an embassy, none of your nationals may enter the United States or any territory under American control. That would include, possessions like Guam and things like this. But it does not include other nations. Other nations are free to do what they want. But with no embassy, no consular presence, you may not have a visa. Therefore, you may not come into the United States. By the way, this includes for purposes of going to the United Nations. Now, if the United Nations finds it unacceptable that we're excluding people, then they can go find a piece of dirt somewhere else and move their building and have it somewhere else, because we're not making exceptions for your so-called consular bullshit. We really don't care what your argument for it is. That's the beginning and end of the discussion. No Iraqi may own any United States asset, period. That means dollars, stocks, bonds, companies, whatever have you. And this, if you try to circumvent it, you go through another nation to circumvent it, that nation gets secondarily sanctioned, and whatever it is that we manage to uncover, we just confiscate. It's ours. Bye. Have a good day. If you do not want to behave like civilized nations and civilized people, that is to say, you don't go around sanctioning state-sponsored murder and various acts of terror around the world, not to mention rocketing embassies and doing things like this, then that's fine. You can be savages within your own country. We don't care. It's not our business. But you don't get any of the benefits of ties with and trade with America. Period. End of discussion. Full stop. As I've said before, and I read this yesterday out of my parodic presidential campaign platform. And by the way, I wish to note something. For those of you that sent email and tweets and replies to the original, oh, by God, if you run for president, I will certainly go. Folks, as I pointed out, if somebody actually wanted me to run for president, they'd have to draft me. Now, you could do that. I'm draftable, but I'm not going to do the normal political. First off, neither the left or right would want anything to do with me, because my foreign policy position is that our $700 billion a year that we spend on defense is probably 90% too much. Maybe not quite that high, but certainly much, much larger than it should be, and an awful lot of it is expended in places like, Iraq. So, they want us to go? Fine, we'll leave. We're leaving now. Bye. Have a nice day. The Iranians are going to come in there and take that land over. You just so you recognize this, right? No, we're not dropping the Iranian sanctions. No, in fact, we're going to ratchet up even further. We're going to find a way to get however much Barack Obama stuck on pallets of cash and sent over there, we'll find a way to get back. We'll see something they own that has an American nexus somewhere. American companies, you're over there in Iraq, you better get out because, oh, by the way, being there and trading with them is something that is not permitted. You have nexus within that country. Guess what? That makes you subject to not having any access to the U.S. financial system, stocks, bonds, exchanges, whatever. Yep, I mean it. Why don't we do this? We had an argument back after 9/11 and before then. In fact, all the way back to the 1970s when we were stupid and gave OPEC an actual exemption from antitrust law. Congress did that. For those of you that want to go after us for the evil things that we did in Iran with regards to the Shah and overthrowing their government, which incidentally, I have written on this. I don't understand why people, bring this up and say, but you don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. I've talked about it more times than I can count. The United States overthrew a democratically elected government in Iran to install the Shah. We did it at the behest of BP, a British company, because the British were too pussified to do it themselves. Our CIA did it. This was pretty well known but not admitted for a very long time. But not very long ago, the documents were declassified, substantiating that the people who have been saying this for an awfully long time were not conspiracy nuts. They were telling the truth. Absolutely nobody in the United States was hanged for this, although many people should have been. We had absolutely no right to do that in the first place. We did it because we seem to think that we're God, and we need to stop playing that effing game. With that said, the man that we waxed had killed, either directly or indirectly through his own operations, hundreds of Americans and maimed thousands. You go find a vet from the sandbox, whether it be the Iraqi sandbox or the Afghan sandbox, who is missing arms and legs, and there's a very good chance that jackass who now has his dick laying in the middle of a street in Baghdad outside of an airport was the man responsible. So for anybody that wants to cry about us waxing that guy, I'm sorry. If somebody murders a bunch of your people and you catch him in the act of being about to murder someone else and you kill him, that's called justifiable homicide. I don't care whether you look at it as an international thing, as a war type thing, or just simply basic self-defense. For those of you that want to go the other way on this, maybe you can explain to me why. And by the way, all you chicken hawks and all you jackasses on both sides, from the military-industrial complex, I don't care if you're on the left or right, oh my God, we can't do that. It's too dangerous. Yeah, what it is that it makes billions and billions and billions of dollars for American defense contractors and, by the way, our bloated and overextended military, who has absolutely no business being there, to make sure that we have enough money, guns, armor, and planes and all kinds of other shit to send over there. And incidentally, may I remind you that when we do that, we have some of our people who come back in pine boxes. And that sucks. There's absolutely no reason we should be doing this. It does nothing to contribute to stability. That part of the world has been at war for over 1,000 years, long before there was an America. Does anybody remember the Marine battle hymn? U.S. Marine Corps. Rather old hymn. From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, we fight our country's battles on the lands and on the sea. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. You remember that? No, you probably don't, do you? You really don't. I grew up with that shit. Did you? You're one of those millennials. How many people even know that hymn? Just the first stanza, okay? Leave the rest of it out there. By the way, there's more, but just the first stanza. Can you actually, how's it end? We are proud to claim the title of United States Marine. If you're not a Marine, if you're one of those younger people, hell, AOC, Ilan. Do you even know that hymn? Where do you think To the Shores of Tripoli came from? Where do you think that happened? Why do you think that's there? Do you seriously think that was just made up? Do you realize that in the first few years of this nation's existence, that we had to deal with all sorts of really bad things coming out of where's Tripoli? Where's Tripoli again? Yeah, long way away, right? Wake the fuck up. What the hell's wrong with people in this country? You know what? The reason we have a Marine Corps, the reason that we have a naval force and had one since the founding of the nation, is that we'd like to be able to actually execute on trade with other nations, and there's this thing called an ocean that gets in the way with a lot of that. So as a result, we have these things called ships, and of course other nations have these things called ships too, and the crazed marauders that have been a part of the Middle East forever, decide from time to time that they're going to screw around with shipping. And they've been doing this since civilization has been civilization. And so, therefore, the first stanza of the Marine Corps hymn. So, why isn't our foreign policy doctrine very simple? You fuck with our stuff, we blow you up. Other than that, you don't want us in your country. You don't want to have a consular relationship with us. You don't want your people to be able to come here, our people to go there, trade, access to the U.S. financial system, the ability to own U.S. financial assets, stocks, bonds, currency, corporations, have our corporations in your country doing business, trade, the ability to exchange goods and services, things like that. You don't want those things? That's fine. You don't have to have them. We don't need you. You want to play this game? Fine. We'll cut you off. You're isolated, period. End of discussion. And by the way, any other nation that thinks that, these guys aren't really so bad, well, they don't have to trade with us either. We have the right to do that. That's called sovereignty. That's what a sovereign nation is. That's one of the rights that a sovereign nation has. And it's time that we exercise it. Send the planes over. Iraq doesn't want us there. That's fine. Guess what? We shouldn't have gone in there the second time. The first, as I have pointed out, was a perfectly justifiable military exercise because they invaded one of our friends. Second time around, not so much. And from then on, not at all. Now, with invitation, it's a different story. The government of Iraq wants us there. Well, then they do. But if they don't, fine. You're locked down. You want to be a pariah in the international community like Iran? You want to be sanctioned to within an inch of your life? That's fine. Nobody buys your oil because oil's priced in dollars. If they want to go around that, they go ahead and try, but they can't do the transaction in dollars. And, by the way, any entity that does go around it also gets sanctioned. And therefore, they're locked out of the U.S. financial system too. So are all these other nations and companies and stuff, they're going to go ahead. Hey, if they don't want access to the American market, they don't need it. If the Chinese are sufficient for them and Russia and other, fine. Have your trade with those guys. Russia has a defense budget of $60 billion a year. I'm not scared of them. China is a bigger problem. China has a rapidly growing military posture, but you know what? If we got to take them on, well, then let's just get on with it. Because guess what? We ought to be sanctioned. Hey, China wants to buy Iraqi oil. That sounds great. Then we'll slam the door on them, and there go all of their access to the U.S. financial system. We'll see how long they last. It's about time that America puts foot down using the power that we have, rather than blowing people up for the explicit purpose of empowering defense contractors and making people rich. At not only the cost of American tax dollars, but at the cost of American arms, legs, and heads. Enough. As I have said, I totally support waxing that crazy terrorist from Iran. But if the people of Iraq don't want us there, fine, we'll leave. And we're going to lock the door behind us, along with access to our finances. If people think that that's a perfectly good trade to make, that's on them, not us. Every nation has its own sovereignty and its own rights, and we respect that. What we aren't going to do is continue to coddle a bunch of jackasses who have spent 1,000 years trying to murder each other. Go ahead and have fun. We'll sit back and we'll watch the fireworks. It'll be a very nice display from over here. I'm your ticker guy. That's how I see it.